That way, when they're off,
Thank you. No.
All right, roll call.
Ron,
Yes.
Palazzo. Yes. Bowser,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Frick. Aaron,
Yes.
Ratta,
Yes.
Langdon.
Yes.
Cool, yes, Smith.
Yes.
Gilman. Taylor.
Yes.
Anything else from our administration?
Nope. We'll be meeting on Tuesday next week.
Does community development have anything?
Very little. We've pretty much just been moving forward on the same fronts we've been moving forward on the last like 3 or 4 months now. One thing to report is that it appears the sidewalk reimbursement program is a pretty big success. A lot of people have been seeing some sidewalk construction in the borough, and I think that's largely due in part to the program that we have in place for reimbursing some of the costs. So a lot of money being spent, and I think it's going to good use. Other than that, we also had some good news about the positive feedback on the tree grades, that we have 2 of them in, and everybody likes them, and we're going to move forward with the others very soon.
I forgot to look last night. We'll go after.
These are the grades that are ADA.
Yeah, and the composite material, inexpensive compared to some of the other, some of the other prices.
Yeah, because I noticed some of the tree areas up around Coney and all, they put in bricks and stuff, and they're kind of on.
Yeah, I think those are the next ones going in, are the restaurant areas.
The restaurant area is where the next one. So,
Yeah. As long as it's is the order.
anything else for community development? Okay,
Yeah, I have 2 things that we went over in our meeting a week ago. They're timely, so we need to vote on them. They've already been approved by Public Safety Committee. The first one is ICAP and S&P Bank are sponsoring the best slice of Indiana 2023 on Saturday, September 16th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at RMC Park. And the motion would be to grant them RMC Park. ICAP and S&P Bank with their best slices, pizza slices, Indiana 2023 to be held Saturday, September 16th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. But I don't think doesn't need a second. This is an event that had been around and then it got out of sync when COVID hit, so now they're trying to bring it back again. And they're going to be selling tickets because they don't. I think the first couple of years they had so many people show up, they didn't know how much dough to prepare and have. So now they're going to have tickets and limit how many people can buy pizza. They're going to have armbands because it was brought up in public safety that, or not armbands, they're going to have lanyards. How do you tell the people walking up and down the street from the people and pay for their pizza? So, but there'll be around 10, I think, pizzerias that'll have slices available.
And 400 tickets available.
And what was the date? I'm sorry.
It is supposed to be Saturday, September 16th, from 11 a.m. Yeah.
I moved to 2.
At Irons.
No.
And where would you get pizza? Where would you get the tickets?
I think this is through being a S&P Bank, like that. I think it might be available down there or down. Yeah.
And on your Facebook site, right? Okay. I'll
But
I did see that.
That's a big discussion.
Yeah,
That's true.
And how much are these tickets?
I don't know. They just
We're not approving anything except.
$20.
I think they're $20 tickets. But just information.
Like all these
What
questions.
we need to approve is they.
I think we're all just hungry.
Just have to give them approval to use the space during that time.
And this was already, this was already voted on in public safety, so. It's good. And they should have brought us samples.
Yeah, well, they were at the meeting, they had a representative to go over it.
The more we talk about pizza, the longer this conversation is gonna go on.
All right. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
And then the second event, which is also a timely thing, Waymakers who did an audience of one Christian concert and gathering. They want to do it again. This was approved in public safety. Audience, I make a motion that audience of one sponsored by the Waymakers be allowed to use IRC Park on Friday, September 29th, from 5:30 PM to 8:30 PM. They just had something, I think was.
Mhm.
And it went off about it, it was well received.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
And outside of that, we have our meeting that I'll talk about some of the details of that, at our next council meeting.
And Mr. Mayor, you were gonna make a statement.
Yeah.
As was made public in January, allegations were raised about Chief Justice Shaw and his fitness to lead the challenge. At the same time, the conduct of at least one other employee was also held in question. Due to allegations raised about Chief Justice Shaw and the Indiana Borough Police Department, I referred the matter to Robert Manning, District Attorney of Indiana County, who referred the matter to the Pennsylvania Attorney General. Additionally, regarding the claims made. Attorney Kramer authored a report and submitted it to Indiana Borough. In Attorney Kramer's investigation, was determined that Mr. Scher's complaints were retaliatory in nature, and that none of the allegations made against Chief Shaw were supported by sufficient evidence. And in accordance with the departmental policy. Several years old and not previously brought forward. Because all employees have protected privacy rights, I will not be publicly identifying any other officer. For action. The borough considers this matter closed and has full faith and confidence in Shaw to lead our police department, and has full faith and confidence in the Indiana Borough Police Department to provide peace, safety, and comfort to our community.
Public Works have anything for I know you don't have everyone.
The street paving has been going on well, it's all mixed, a lot of streets down in Ward.
Nicole's gonna report on that.
There's all kinds of things happen.
I have a
I
question.
don't know if it's Public Works or Nicole, just about the tree grades in general. Should I wait for you?
We're talking about that.
Since somebody stole our paving thunder, let her talk about tree grades a little more.
Is there anything to share?
No. Our meetings next week.
All right, now, Nicole, you're on.
Oh, good. All right. No, we all have these meetings and committee meetings, and we talk about like projects in general, but I have to say, each department here has been extremely busy, extremely busy. Public Works, they are painting lines, getting ready for back to school, kids coming back to school. They were out this morning painting crosswalks. They're fixing potholes. I know this is day-to-day activities that they're doing, but they are extremely busy. They're trying to work around, hopefully, no rain days. Parks Department, grates are getting put in, and they started with IRC Park. And first grate that got put in, it was a learning curve, and it looks great. So we placed an order for some of the ones on Philly Street for the outdoor dining areas, so that will help with the sidewalks there. They're very busy trimming trees and getting these grates put together. Obviously, they've been helping with the goats. The goats are still up there. They're getting moved to the other location on the well, if you're looking at it on the left-hand side. So they'll be there probably another week. And then, they've been having a lot of traction. Everybody's stopping by to see the goats. The administration, Lori is leading the charge and working with the clerks out front to send out utility delinquent payments. It's been a process. We've been working with the collection agency. We've been working with our programming. We're trying to get some back sewage and recycling and garbage payments that are due to the borough. So they've been really working hard on getting those sent out. Communication, Kyle, I can't say enough about these grants. He is applying for every grant. There's every month. There's a grant there. We're trying to get a deadline, and he's working with each department to come up with multiple grant fundings that, you know, there's 3 on the books right now that he's applying for. The code department, they are doing inspections, property registrations right now. They're getting tons of calls on complaints, and they're, you know, the sidewalk, they're working with the sidewalk program. Which is huge. It's taken off. So they're working with everybody on the sidewalks. Our planning department, which is one person, Trajan, he's running the steering committees, working with that comp plan and attending every festival. He was up there at the thing, getting ideas from the public. So he's really reaching out to the public and getting public input. Obviously, our sewage department down there is running $1 million facility and on old equipment, and they're doing the best they can. They're working hard, getting you know, their equipment updated and just clean reports all the time. Parking, they got new meters uptown. They are short-staffed, and they're still, you know, doing what they can with that garage and trying to participate in the events. Again, our public works department, they're opening and closing roads for events. Parking's working with DI on these events. The police, obviously, you just listened to their mid-year report. They're so busy. The chief, Shaw and I, we have such a great working relationship when it comes to the budgets and working on the financial. We're dealing with the police union negotiation right now. And I can't say enough, like, the respect, and it's going smoothly so far. Pat and I have been involved in that. So I just have to say we're busy. So you might not see it at the committee meetings, but they are very busy during the day. So that's all. They are.
Any questions? Yes.
With the tree grades, now, these ones are, I forget what the cost is per tree grade. It's significantly less than some of the, like, cast iron or wrought iron or whatever these other ones were. So my question is, if we were to buy every single tree grade, what would that budget look like, and how does that compare to the total available in that? It was called in a technical way.
We're looking to buy 133 tree grades. It would cost about 15,000 compared to 6,000 for one. Yeah,
So the question,
that funding,
that fund,
then we can hopefully use it for some more downtown, like downtown economic development, because that's what the initial thing was for. So,
okay, so. Good answer.
Right.
But that's the general flavor of what it would be used for.
having meetings with the DI, Sam Kinley, and talking about the, you know, some ideas for IRMC Park. They would like to see the Vinegar Hill. Yeah, that's a big one. You know, we've been working with DI to come up with some ideas, and that's so. And tree grates are one of the big complaints from the business owners, so we're working on those, so they're happy about that.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, you, I want to thank Mayor Simmons, everyone on council, our entire community for showing my family and I respect through the past 7 months. I've worked very hard to be worthy of community trust, and I hope that today continues validating that trust in me. Leading the police department has not been simple. Our community has been through extraordinary local and national events that have impacted everyone, in addition to the everyday threats that challenge everyone's safety. Community safety is a strategy, and every decision is important. And they may be unpopular at any given moment. Many have been extremely difficult to make. But I will have always made decisions with thought for both officer and community safety. I'm blessed to have a platform to lead, and I'll continue working to be the best version of myself that I can be. I want to publicly thank my family for enduring a difficult and very unusual 7 months. This is not what they expected when I became chief of police, and I'm sorry that it impacted their lives. In the coming weeks and months, your police department will be focused on enhancing school safety, creating a safe environment for our largest special events, and supporting everyone through a busy holiday season. We exist to enhance quality of life of everyone in our community, and we're here for everyone always. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it should be added to, if you hadn't noticed already, school's starting back up. I noticed lots of freshmen walking around town yesterday, and the Indiana area school district starts up a week from tomorrow. So just be careful and be aware. There's going to be a lot of foot traffic now.
I've also noticed a couple of the officers over new baseball caps.
Yeah.
And they look great, different, but great. They look comfortable.
They like them.
Anything else for the chief?
I really don't have much. We are still working with planning on, we did get, as we talked about last time, a couple of the blighted garages have been taken care of. We're moving forward to try to get the writ of execution on the Bell properties so we can get those handled. But the next thing, we're working with the borough manager and the chief on the police contract. So I think from our perspective, things are moving forward. We're accomplishing a lot. We're doing some work with Marsh Run right now, getting some easements and things of that nature, but everything's moving along. So I'll add.
Meetings as usual. The one thing I want to report on tonight is a meeting I attended on August 10th at the KCAC, organized by the Allegheny Conference on Community Development. It was well attended, largely by people from the business world, but including the county commissioners, the folks from IUP, and various people involved with planning. The organization seems to cover much of the same region as the Southwest Pennsylvania Commission, and they were holding several meetings around the area. I think we should pay attention to what they're doing, but not that much. Most of what we talked about was more relevant to a county or area level than at a municipal level. There was the usual discussion of manufacturing jobs and workforce development, neither of which is anything for the borough to act on. One thing I found curious, and we commented on President Driscoll, was that on the one hand, they seem to see IUP as a key institution for the local area. But on the other hand, there was a lot of downplaying of the importance of higher education. I found myself thinking that they were talking about the preparation of worker bees rather than engaged citizens. And that's my report.
Interesting.
Mayor.
One thing to add with the community development. If you go to Fifth and Philly, you'll see that Buggy's Exxon is taking on a new look. So it's not a bad idea just to take a look, you're driving by a fellow by the name of Earl, he was a real estate fellow, he bought it and he's actually doing a lot of the work himself. So we'll see what comes out of it.
Do you know if he has a tenant for it yet?
Well, no, I've talked to him, but he has, yeah.
Then anything will be an improvement.
What I've been told is that he's fixing it up, the idea of leasing it out to some business.
At least it'll look nice.
It'll look much better than it did. So
That wouldn't be hard.
forward to it. That's all.
That's all you got?
Yeah.
Other questions for the mayor? We've got then one more major item of business. Which is, what are we gonna do next year?
Yeah.
Work.
Included in your council packet is the proposal that I wrote up after meeting with this is a very rough draft. this is related to the reduction of council size and possible adjustment of meetings, getting rid of the standard committee structure that we have and switching to like 3 meetings or 2 meetings a month with a possible third meeting. One general session and then the idea we have 1 session where staff is there, where all of council could then hear directly from staff rather than getting it through committee reports. At the time, I think we just discussed it, but I haven't had any feedback other than Kyle would like to remove the communication committee and replace it with something.
So the thing that I'm just curious about is the non-regularness of the schedule of the, you know, personnel. And I understand there may not be things to do for personnel every month, but I guess I'm thinking about it from a citizen's perspective. How can a sort of citizen effectively interact with the government? One of the ways that we do that with transparency is to have these regular meetings. And now we don't have to have the same meetings. I just worry if we don't have regular meetings, it's harder for. Sure, but the committee, like the special committee. So I guess I'm worried about transparency, and I'm worried that it will be more. It already is difficult, except for tonight. It already is difficult to get the public engaged. If we have sort of tenuous meetings that only happen sometimes, it will be much harder for that to happen. So I'm not against sort of the structure or changing. You know, maybe communication isn't. You know, at least I'm not against like changing our current committee structure, but I do think having decisions made transparently is super important. And I would hate to have meetings missed because they're only scheduled sometimes and you've got to check somewhere where that is. It's hard enough to get, you know, people here. So I wonder if there's a way to do it regularly.
Still have our general session. That opens the public to the voting decisions. And then we would have a meeting that rather than having individual committee, we would put all staff. Those would replace the staff reports and the comment to talk. And the special committees would be mostly seasonal committees for specific like ordinance review or like budget. So like that would replace some of the functions that may be more detailed that we couldn't necessarily discuss in the debate. Made more sense to separate them out. And when we looked at a number of boroughs, this is how they did it. Like they had, there's some boroughs have like 12 committees.
And they only meet like sometime.
And they just meet as needed. So they might have like parks. So if it's a park issue, this committee. I don't know if we need to get that into the weeds, but this was like us talking. What are the specific things we know we do every year that take more time and investment, and that's things like the budget, and that's things like looking at an ordinance and drafting an ordinance where 3 or 4 people can look at it in more fine detail. And then the other one was any sort of personnel issue.
Can I add to that list that I think is super important is when we spend money, when we spend people's money. And I know we do that largely in personnel, but you know, in public works, we spend a lot of people's money, and a lot of times we don't have people there for those meetings. But it's still, to me, it's a big deal when we see, you know, 6-figure grants go, 6 figures that we're spending, a lot. And I know folks aren't there, but it's important to me that that's a public process that's trackable, it's accountable.
The second public meeting is part of that process.
I don't know. That's what I'm asking. So
Have 2 standard meetings, and then the third is like a third Tuesday.
So those, you know, like sewer projects or the paving thing, that would be at the big meeting.
4 and for 3.
Community development and public safety would be absorbed into the regular meetings.
Yeah, all there are basically, the committees are like the way that we have them. And all the departments, the ideas, all the departments would report to all of council, they would get all the information, including funding. I mean, still open to the public, just the staff is there, just like any.
We're gonna be able to hold these meetings in the same amount of time.
Yeah, that seems like a really long meeting.
The idea is that it's more of agenda driven, and so any of the longer discussions are pulled out into these smaller.
I guess that's my question, because, and this might just be, because my primary experience is community development, in which people come and sit and tell me, or now tell Josh, their concerns about X. And so we might spend 45 minutes on community cats. Or so, but it was, I mean, it's like it's a discussion about what the issues are. And so that's, I guess my question, I understand what you're going for, and I don't have to have a dog in this fight at this point, but there is I think there's potential loss of that process, that public process. And I don't know if the other committees work the same way.
Well,
I'm worried about it.
The other aspect of way of doing it this way is our general session is more public focused because we're not going over our committee reports because we were all there. So you're not going through, oh, this is the committee report. We basically lose that part and that is a better time for public comment.
here's the question then. So let's just say there's a budget, we'll use the budget, right? That's coming up now. We'll say we're going to have a budget committee. And it said in here that every member of council will be in 2 committees. Right? Again, let's pretend that this is, not the rough draft, right? So let's play this out just slightly. So if every member of council is in 2 committees, right? How do you evenly delineate tasks across the year when somebody may meet once and somebody may meet 4 times and there's a yeah, okay. And that might be the answer. That's fine. But to go, but to go with that, right now, I have a rough idea, if I look at a blank calendar, when the different meetings will be. Right? If this is an as needed, at what point do you decide who makes that decision? How far in advance is it made? Is it we talk tonight about tomorrow? Or is it we talk tonight about next month? That's only 24 hours, right? But that's not exactly.
Like the idea is that it's, 3 Tuesdays that are blocked off, 2 guaranteed.
Oh, I'm sorry, I just forget that part. The other meeting would be on that other Tuesday. Yeah, I forgot about that. Thank you.
Different days, which is 3 Tuesdays.
Okay.
You know that you're be possibly available for that 3rd one. And if you're on the budget, for sure, October through December, you are having.
No, I forgot about that 3rd Tuesday already being on there. So that answers a lot of
I
that question.
feel
so.
like,
Yeah. Thank you.
I feel like that 3rd Tuesday needs to just be on the calendar and there's no way we're cramming all of our committees and everything that everybody's doing into 2 sessions ever.
Same number of committees, like committee meetings, but you're getting all the information rather than having to go.
And I love that. That's fantastic. Yeah. But I think it needs to be 3 meetings a month and try and hold it to that. Maybe there's a special meeting, of course, one.
Committees, if all possible, I know nighttime is tough at 7. If you guys have kids and activities and sports and stuff. I don't know, we could throw it out there too. And I don't know how many people can make it during a day. Peter could he's retired, yeah. So maybe a 3 o'clock might work better in some people's schedule than a 7 o'clock meeting. It depends. I don't know. My kids were so active, I couldn't do anything in the evenings, but that's how they grew up. But again, I don't know. It could be, we could see what 8 are here and then.
And then one of those days would be 2 combined committee meetings, followed by 2 combined committee meetings.
I think that was discussed, and I think it was Ben that suggested like that's maybe getting too complicated, and so we simplified it out, just said that there is no, those committee meetings, like we had combined 2 committees into like, so instead of 4, we had 2, and so we just got rid of that whole part of it and just said, everyone's here for that meeting. You don't come to have a meeting, you come to the whole meeting.
In theory, we're kind of combining 4 to 1.
Right.
That's even more, right?
We just do away with committees altogether and call it council business.
Well, okay,
just
a follow-up question on that. I was getting to that. What, because now you may have quorum issues with some things, and if some things, I don't know, right now we push people to committees to bring specific grievances and or questions or complaints. But if we're gonna not have them anymore, where are we?
question I was gonna have is that here we come in, they have 3 minutes to speak, whereas for community development, they can present an issue that might need more elaborate. Back and forth is good. So will we lose that conversation with the public? Where would that?
I mean, I don't know what the borough code says about what kind of sessions you have to have. If the general session can be conversational, because we're not.
So,
Change that. We can
Maybe
change the
possible.
agenda to public. A lot of people do public comment in the beginning of the meetings and have a public comment at the end.
but public comment isn't necessarily a back and forth.
Right.
And I'd like to point out that I'm not trying to poo-poo this. I'm just asking questions as they come to my mind. Yeah. Yes, well, I think we can all agree that that part, the basic premise to have less
Yeah.
meetings with more information is better.
The third meeting be like all the committee business meeting, the committee meetings, like all 4 into 1? Let's call that the third
Well, that's kind of the second.
meeting.
That's the second one.
It's all.
Well, I don't think
the
we're
front-
specific meeting that as much as that. One of them is the committees.
If you had three, just as a potential, 'cause I agree. I mean, I think this is a good, if you have three, if you just have three standing meetings, so I agree with Josh, that's by the time you get through all those special things, my experience is that there's always an ordinance, there's always a personnel thing, and then the budget's 3 months. So if you had 3 meetings, you could in fact, and as you say, 2 of them are gonna run pretty smooth because they're agenda driven. So you could actually take those issues, those pretty regular issues that we know about, and have them be part of one of those 2 meetings as you've described. And that then frees up the third meeting for a Festivus grieving, airing the grievances sort of thing, right? Where people can come and you just, it's basically an open invitation on the third Tuesday. You know, if you got concerns, come talk to council. Right, to have a conversation, right.
However, folks want to organize it.
I mean, I think this is a great, you gotta start somewhere. This is a great spot to start, so.
Yeah, and it depends on how they're run, so like, public works go a very long time, but we read over all of the document versus, hey, these are the items, it's more of like the idea of like, these are the council actions that you need to take, or this information you need to know, versus let's all discuss like what specifically is the problem that's wrong at the wastewater treatment. Let's move on. What is the general session?
I think you have to make sure that you have public comment.
Correct.
But as far as the give and take, I mean, you can have a more conversational meeting if you choose to do that. Now, there are, as with anything, there's pros and cons. I mean, you know, if it's a conversational meeting, you may have to sit there and take, you know, you can't cut somebody off at 3 minutes if you don't like what they're saying to you.
I think having specific voting meetings for that, and that
Sure.
we need to get votes at a certain time.
Right.
Can you have public comment in the middle? Or maybe the back and forth is at the middle end, or what, like you were saying. At the beginning is state your business, the end is the conversation, so that you can get through the other things.
Can I just clarify? So I like what the folks are talking about. I appreciate the idea of having, like, these items you have committees, finance and budgeting, ordinance review, personnel, that does kind of happen almost every time. So maybe those are just like bullet points that happen in that work session meeting.
Personnel is specific.
I guess personnel, yeah, less than that.
Usually executive, so
Yeah.
that is very, it's only if there's issues.
Yeah.
And-
But you know, budgeting, we're usually spending money. But I'm just trying to remember, what happens at the first meeting then? So are we passing motions on the second meeting? We're getting reports from staff and they're probably saying, we could appreciate this motion. Are we gonna try to pass that motion right then, or do we wait to
The
pass it
idea
the
is
next
that-
time?
Wait, like,
we wait to the next meeting at the beginning.
Like you have time to get the information, review it, consider it, and vote.
And then.
So the idea is it's not really a voting session. We'd rather
That is
get
just
information.
Yeah, at least that's like, when I was looking at different boroughs and how
Mhm.
they structured their meetings, some of them even had a work session and the next day was the work session.
State, you're not allowed to pass a vote.
Advertise anything as a voting.
No, what it will. Well, I like the thought of having one that you can't vote on. It gives time for thought and reflection and feedback.
Set it up that you're saying that meeting would be a non-voting meeting. Now, the downside to that
Is
is
sometimes
me
you
just
need
playing
it.
devil advocate.
Yeah,
You may have a time sensitive issue that
yeah.
you need to vote on in the middle of the month. So that's why we switched it to advertise. So it gives you the flexibility. You don't have to vote, but it gives you the flexibility. It's sunshined, so you don't have to, you can do one advertisement saying, hey, our meetings are gonna be this first Tuesday, third Tuesday, and those are voting meetings.
This is how the work session regular meeting.
That was, I think that was. Yeah,
ultimately, this model.
Yeah, we just.
it's like.
Kept getting screwed up. That's why I try not to take things from like
The next day.
That's just not fair.
Police report, and we have this discussion, and then this, the other stuff incidentally, but there were things that were time sensitive that had to be voted.
Right, that was paving contracts and anything.
General example.
Maybe sometimes when we get a contract in and they have to confirm that all of these details are correct, so we send it to the hearing. Go there. But then we're waiting for our engineer to confirm everything, so we can send it to council, but we need to get it signed so that we can move forward with the contract in a timely manner, you know, like that is something.
And again, I'm going. Don't submit it in time to review it. That feels like something did go wrong.
It's just, sometimes our, like, maybe we don't.
Was malicious. I mean, like sometimes, maybe it should have been 2 weeks earlier.
Today we voted on the ICAP pizza thing.
Yeah.
So, and that came to us late, so we didn't have time to do it any other way. Is that what you
I give
mean?
you the advantage of voting on something that's time sensitive, but technically speaking, it's because they submitted the application late. Right? So somebody in theory did something wrong, right? Or maybe not the most correct, maybe a better way to phrase it. That's more what I'm getting at. In that moment, they submitted it late, therefore became something for us to vote on, but it.
So you're right.
Yeah, not as correct, maybe a better way to phrase it, as opposed to something wrong.
Change the ordinance to try to be more flexible for our citizens, like taxpayers that are like, hey, I want to do this thing. I didn't realize you have we have officially a very long lead time for events. And as a council, we have wanted more events. And so the response was, let's make sure we can approve these.
I'm not discounting any of that, but whatever we choose, there's going to be something we didn't think of, no matter what it is, right? And so just in a spirit of.
And if you draw a line in the sand, you want to cross that line.
Right, and so no matter what we decide on, right? Something's gonna change a month later, or someone's gonna have something to say a month later, either ourselves or the community, right? And so that's all I'm getting at, like some of these are, they're instances created due to something not necessarily being followed to the letter of how it's written. And that creates an emergent situation needing the vote. Well, and I agree that it's beneficial in a lot of cases.
My 2 cents on all this is, it's gonna take some trial and error.
Yeah.
to do it, council.
Yeah,
You're going from 12 bodies to 8 bodies. And, you know, there's gonna be some things that you might say today, this is the way it's gonna be, and it's gonna be great. And then first month, you're gonna be like, this is horrible. What are we doing? So, I think you need to allow yourself some flexibility to, you know, I don't wanna say, be light on your feet, but
Sign up for the day, but the meeting is happening.
that's a great start.
I feel like you're looking at them three.
Ready.
If anyone has any like thoughts or feedback, or you want to do your research and look up stuff.
Is there any benefit to, instead of doing 3 Tuesdays, doing the one on a Monday, like this, the committee session on a Monday? I had my meeting last night and we can address issues right away if needed, and so maybe a Monday isn't a bad idea right before, you know, the next work session or something. Does anybody like that?
That doesn't give time for looking into research and feedback, that sort of thing. Right.
Just so you know, there's no law that says you have to hold your meeting on a Tuesday. If a better day works for the new council.
Here around Tuesdays, thank you.
I'm just saying,
No, but stop. We've already made. I want to do.
I'm just saying based on what Josh said. I'll be there, Luke.
We'll go for a
I may
weekend.
be the only one, but I'll be there.
I just want to say one more thing in terms of what you're saying. This might work, this might not work. There's gonna be some kinks we gotta work out. We've been on council for a little while and we've seen our meetings change a little bit.
Yeah.
And what I think, as we go, I want to make sure that we're dependent on our manager who has to manage the whole thing. And so, like, if it works for us, great. But if it's not working for Nicole, that's not great. And so you should feel free to be like, hey, this is not working or it is working as we go forward over these next like 6 months, because you're going to have the institutional knowledge here over the next year.
Plus all the committee people,
Yeah.
different department heads.
Yeah.
Committee meetings, I think, are long because we make them long. I think this will give the chance for staff to come in and say, again, this is what we're doing, overview, this is really what, I think now we're always committee driven. Now, I think if we go this way, we're gonna rely more on the staff to say, this is what we're doing, and this is what we need approval with, and this is what we're working on, like a more overview.
Reports. Poke course get a lot. We get a lot. Poke course department is great.
Yes, you moved that way. That worked out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get to.
Then you get to read them thoroughly.
Built in to have this discussion, right? Because, right, and if that's the second Tuesday or the third, whatever Tuesday it is gonna be like the solicitor just said, we're gonna try it for a month, we're all gonna hate it. Well, then we're gonna have to sit down and talk about it at length in order to change it again, right? So as long as we're still having a moment like this built into some point, right, we can receive reports, sure, but at some point we may need to talk about it, a heavy duty lift to redo something at the sewage plant, right? Like those things, or a $3.2 million building project loan that becomes bigger over time as we discover asbestos. Building as an example, right?
I mean, if we could always stick to the structure of the committee meetings, but then we'll try to see, you're gonna have 8 people and then you're gonna try to have to split them up among those committees.
I just asked one of you had mentioned you chatted with other boroughs. Are there local, what were the boroughs?
I was that through that list that we had, like, all of the college.
Yeah.
like, small
College towns like
towns.
that we did for
And I was looking at ones that had less meetings.
Yeah.
Most of them have less meetings. But
It's
there,
like-
there was a few that had just an exorbitant number of committees, but every single one of them was as needed, and that seemed like an overly complicated schedule. The way simplify it, but we need to figure out what processes talking about further the other issues like the finance ordinance and personnel, things that need to into one of, yeah.
I got it.
Really, all of them or ordinances, just a lot of process.
Those things fall outside of the department heads.
But those could still, if we want to have a special topics meeting that we have monthly. And that's where all this will fall.
A good starting point, you know.
Yeah,
Tuesday's meetings at the same time.
Yeah,
Then
I just
then-
know to
oh,
block
then
off
the
my
public knows.
Tuesdays.
They're gonna be able to come, that's when they come.
Council members will know too, just block off your Tuesdays.
And so we probably just gonna bring it up again next month and any suggestions.
Any suggestions or do you have any thoughts or research, or you want to talk to staff?
Yeah, it looks good so
I would just like, as it was pointed out, having a call in the department heads be take into consideration what's good for them too.
Love only 3 meetings, I think.
Planning commission, that planning commission, nobody comes to. Yeah.
anything else? Is there any new business coming first? There are motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. I think it's a good starting point. And if you're down to 3 meetings. Gotta have 3 meetings. And I think it's good that everybody is
Yeah.
involved,
Yeah.
because when I read reports from public safety, I'm like, oh, I wish I was there. What's that, you know, like.
Public safety is a long
It's
one.
nice to be at all meetings
Yeah,
this way.
it's
count
a
out
long
all
one.
the information.
That makes it